Paul, you ready? Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and if we may, let's all please rise and have the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for removing your hat. Okay, well, we're here to discuss the Plainsville proposed 25 budget, and we're going to turn it over to Dr. Apple, and I'll let you show that.
All right, and board members, if you would like, so you could see this better, if you want to move out here, that way you can see everything that we've got going. Mr. Hancock, can you hear me all right? Okay. Myself and Mr. Crawhorn and Miss Simler have worked very, very hard on the budget for 2025, the proposed budget. We'll see a couple areas, and we'll talk about a few areas where the budget has gone up and a few areas where the budget has gone down. And what we really tried to put an emphasis on, and you'll see as we go through each area, and especially education, our education fund, the budget we have increased considerably to try to help with salaries, additional staff, those kinds of things, where we've cut some monies in debt service and in operations. And in referendum, we're asking for the same $500,000 as in the past. But if you look, the net assessed value of Franklin Township, the state has it now at $322 million, $384,209. That is up about $20 million from 2024. And so, when you hear taxes are going up, that's where a lot of that is coming from this year. The total proposed 2025 budget is $10,849,025. And that is slightly below the 2024 budget. And we've worked really, really hard not to uptick our budget, to spend within our means, not put too much fluff into it, but prepare for worst case scenario in a lot of ways. And we've looked line by line at absolutely everything. But it is about $50,000 less than the 2024 budget. When I put this together, this was a couple of weeks ago, but these numbers really haven't changed much. Sitting our current fund balances, our education fund, $3,411,797. Our referendum fund is sitting at $190,000, and then $596. Our debt service is sitting at $291,059, and our operation fund is sitting at $2,374,330. And then investments, what we rolled over into Trust Indiana, is sitting at $4,242,621. This has done very, very well for us. We use it to plan for worst case scenario, but also to help teachers out. And so we pay a 401a, 1% out of that, and then what's left over on the third that we pull out goes to the teachers in a stipend. And so that money is working for teachers right now. One thing, as we talk about things for the future, we know that interest rates are coming down. They're being cut. That helps us if you look at any building projects, anything like that. That hurts you when you look at investments. And so that's a double-edged sword. But we'll continue to track that growth. But I think that's still going to be very beneficial for the corporation and for our teachers. But that's currently where our fund balances sit. Our education fund and where that money comes from, that comes from state tuition support. And so what we get from the state feeds our education fund. And that's what we pay our salaries for teachers, secretaries, librarian, assistants, counselors, administrators. That comes out of there. Benefits, some utilities, most of those come out of operations, but there are a few things there. supplies, insurance, and then we have to use that for our textbook shortfall, which the state, saddled us with. And I'm a firm believer that textbooks ought to be free for kids. We just threw it out. The state of Indiana did very quickly. Hopefully they'll address it this year. But most of us, if not all of us, have shortfalls that we've got to fix out of that. The proposed budget for 2025, $7,629,025. Last year it was $6,767,185. You can see a sizable increase in our education fund, but there are a lot of things that we pay out of that. But we've also added some positions to help teachers and to help students, and we want to help teachers and instructional assistants and administrators looking for the future. And so you'll see a sizable increase in our education fund proposal for this year for the budget. Right now we're sitting, if count day is today and that's October 1, we're going to be up hopefully 10 to 15 students when it all shakes out. But we'll see in a couple of weeks. But here are the education line items: salaries and benefits, Prosser tuition. Hey guys, don't. And Prosser tuition, we are looking at an increase in Prosser tuition. We got told that the other day, and so we're waiting to see how that shakes out for us. Special education cooperative fees and dues and that kind of stuff comes out of there. Purchase services, speech pathologist. Right now, that is circled back into that special education cooperative funding. If it ever comes back the way that it was, then that would be saddled on us directly. Credit recovery, professional development. Some of that comes out of title money. Some of it we pay directly out of education, network support, some computer hardware, textbook fees, athletic coaches, media services. All of that comes out of your education fund. That's why that is significantly larger than the other funds. It is by far and away the largest pool of money that gets pulled from. Debt service fund. This is a fund that we have to pay our bills, our dues. And so you can see that it was significantly lower than last year. And the reason being is because we've paid down some debt that we've had. We've got a project or two that we're looking at that may replace some of that that has come off and it's going off. What we want to make sure we do, though, and this is one, education fund has no impact on your taxes, your local taxes. Debt service does. We've worked very, very hard with the county government. I spent a lot of meetings at county council meetings, late summer, working with them, talking with them, just being there, listening. What the county does, and we are so thankful for, is they give some debt service reduction directly to the taxpayers of Harrison County. And it was $3 million. It got cut to $2 million, but this year they kept it at $2 million. So that helps our people not pay as high a rate on taxes. We tried to make sure that the tax rate stayed about the same. You can see I'm asking for an I'm advertising a tax rate of 0.2507. Last year was 2.2502. But that stays about the same. But all this money, all that goes to is paying bonds that have been issued for, whether it's, the redoing of the cafeteria and the bathrooms years ago or those kinds of things. So any improvements like that get saddled into debt service, and then those tax dollars go directly to that. So we don't dictate where it goes other than that. Once the project is completed, once it's been financed, it goes directly towards the payments. And so we can't take debt service funds and send it to education. You can't do any of that. It goes directly towards the payments that you've got. It comes from property taxes, excise taxes. And then you can see it's, for bonds, construction bonds, that's what is paid out of it. Operations fund. And this is generally your second largest fund. This comes from property taxes, excise taxes. We get payments in June and December, And then sometimes we transfer. If you noticed the last board meeting, we transfer money from education to operations. And this is one that you advertise, but you're only going to get what you're going to get from the state. So once they look at the taxes that come in, they look at every entity that gets the taxes, whether it be us, the library, the fire department, the police, the who knows what else, just your local town government and county government. They take all the taxes and divide them up and try to get as close to where you are as you can be, but it won't be nearly that much. But our 2025 proposed budget is $2,308,000 with a tax rate of 0.8623. If you look at our 2024 budget, we are looking just right under 3 million, $2,997 or $997,226 with a proposed tax rate of 0.8618. So that's one that we have cut down to try to help get more money into our education fund, to help teachers, to help support staff, to try to do all of that. And so when you look at, I didn't want to take the budget any higher than it was last year. There are some times that you have no other choice. But I didn't want to take that budget any higher than we did last year. And so you look at what we can cut, what we can save, and operations is the main part of that. But if you look, building improvements, purchase of equipment, architect fees, maintenance costs, utilities, technology, transportation costs, and then I'm actually paid out of operations. Other building administrators are paid out of the education fund. The superintendent is paid out of operations. And those things are dictated to you from the state, but that's just the way that it is. But those are things that are paid out of operations. Referendum fund, and we are a corporation that has an operational referendum. And I'd like to thank the taxpayers of Franklin Township. I wasn't here at the time, but it is very valuable. But that comes from property tax, excise tax, and CVET. And what we use for that is to help pay a few salaries, health insurance, and benefits. The 2025, we're looking at $500,000 with a tax rate of 0.1681. Last year, $500,000 with a tax rate of 0.1682. So try to keep that tax rate a little bit down, where you saw a bump in a couple. If we can bring this down a little bit. But this is one, when it all shakes out, we will send this to the state, and then they will send back to us what it actually is going to shake out at. The way that the operational referendum is written, we cannot do a tax rate above 17 cents. And so we make sure that we keep it under 17 cents. But in the past, it hasn't been. So this is what we advertise, keep it under 17 cents. And typically it comes in somewhere in the 13 to 14 cents range once they do all their math up there. But we make sure that it's as close to that when we advertise, just in case something happens, just in case the money, the way that it shakes out in the rates. But it will probably be less than that. And it's important to note that Franklin Township currently has the third lowest tax rate in the state of Indiana as far as what education draws. We draw under 53 cents right now. The state average is about $1.10 to $1.15. This past week, I was at a conference and spoke to a lot of our neighbors, and they are above $1. They're $1.03, $1.10, $1.12. Some is up as high as $1.18. And so we have been forever well below the state average. There may be a time that we ask the taxpayers to get closer to the state average to help on a project or two. But I just want to make sure I note what those tax rates mean. And so really that is 16 cents and 17 cents. But it should come in lower than that. Looking at capital projects over the next 3 years, and we've already posted this plan and sent it in. You always kind of put your wish list on there: cafeteria tables and chairs, central office lighting, parking lot repaving, plumbing, HVAC repair, playground fencing, gas tank pump, smart boards, double-sided LED for outside, and then high school gym bleachers, new ones. What I want to point out on this list, there are two that I have earmarked as by far and away our top priorities. Those two are smart boards for our classrooms and we may go elementary one year and high school the next, but that is a top priority for education. And I try to look at, okay, for education, what is one thing we have to do? And for safety, what is one thing that we have to do? Those are my top 2 priorities. Number 2 on that list is playground fencing. We have to get that done around that playground. I drive past there during the day and balls are going all over the place. Kids are all over the place. You never know what's there. And so I would like to thank Miss Shiger. She walked out and looked at it with me. We've already had Jeff Shireman from Shireman Construction come out and look at it with me, and a landscape architect from Tower Pinkster has come and looked at it with me, and they're drawing up some plans now for what that's going to look like. But we want to make sure that our kids have a secured place to play during the day. And so those are our top 2 priorities: education and safety. Earmark those 2 things before anything else. We want to make sure it gets done. Bus replacement. We know in 2025, we're going to make a considerable contribution to our bus fleet. We've got one bus that is ordered but will come in 2025. And we've got another bus that we are going to order in 2025, large buses. We know, looking at the last round of bus contracts, where in the past we always had a full fleet of contract drivers, that got cut in half. I anticipate even fewer contract drivers in 3.5 years or 2.5 years now when we have to do those again. So we really need to kind of start stocking up and being prepared for that. And then as you move into the future, 2026, another new large bus. And then we start looking at mid buses. Mid bus this year, a large bus. We've got one coming in that was on 2024. And then we start looking a new mid bus that will give us a fleet of 4. We use the 3 that we have and we run them ragged. And then we'll start replacing in 2027 those mid buses. And it should say mid and not mide, but then 27, 28, replacing the mid buses. And then once we hit 28, also replacing bus 10, which is our Prosser bus. That one needs, and what'll happen is we'll get a new bus moving on a route, and then our oldest bus will move into the Prosser run. And then 29, we put another replacement of a mid bus. As we budget, what we always look at is what puts us in the best place possible for potential growth within our boundaries, expand our educational programming, continue to support technology, and keep up with rising costs on all fronts. We look at what we can cut, what is kind of fluff, what we need to build some padding in, because you never know what's going to happen. So you make sure you do that. Our budget, as we told, was $10.8 million. I really hope not to spend $10.8 million in 2025. You have to plan for it. You hope to never do it. But that's where we are at on that. And then information here, I can send this to anybody that wants it. I don't know if anybody's watching out there or any of you sitting in here. If you want a copy of the budget, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. As we sit here now, any questions from anybody? Thank you very much.
I think that's the reason why we're first with people going anywhere where they want to as far as the school. Okay, thank you. Just a comment with people with the child can go anywhere they want to, and we got the homeschoolers and your private schools and so forth, chartered schools. The importance of having people here. You can see each child financially brings in $6,700. You saw that up there on the board. So that's why it's so important that we keep our enrollment up to maintain our budgets and have money to work with. thanks again, Dr. Apple, for explaining that. I'm just, after 24 years, I'm just now getting a halfway decent grasp on the budget. I mean, the first few years, it's like my head's swimming, and it is definitely a moving target.
It's a complex thing.
It's very complex. It's different than a business budget, that's for sure.
Yes.
Just one other comment. One of our board members had a family responsibility that he needed to be at, and we felt it was a good excuse for that. So that's the reason we're short one board member. With that, any questions or comments from the board?
I think so.
You have anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay. So we're open for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Well, let's approve the budget first.
No, we
No,
do
do
that
Oh.
budget
in
now.
October.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? I'm brain dead. Sorry about that. With Jason made the motion, we adjourn. Do we have a second?
Yep.
You second it?
Yep.
Sharon second it. All in favor, just say aye and we'll
Aye.
adjourn. Thank you. Thank